Your Claude automation is one bad Tuesday away from collapsing, and it's not the model's fault. It's the pattern you copied from every tutorial online. If you've ever watched a long Claude workflow slow to a crawl, hallucinate halfway through, or burn tokens like a furnace, you already know the pain. In the next 15 minutes, I'll show you the exact Orchestrator plus sub-agents pattern I run in production. Why every single agent tutorial breaks past day 3 and the real numbers it saved me. I'm Nazar. I ship this for clients every week. Let's start with the part nobody warns you about. Here's the scenario I keep walking into. A solopreneur or a small ops team builds something cool on Claude. Maybe it triages email, scores leads, drafts invoices, summarizes calls. Week 1, it feels like magic. Week 3, it starts missing things. Week 5, the API bill is double what they expected, and the assistant is forgetting instructions it followed perfectly on Monday. They blame the model. They try a bigger context window. They add more rules to the system prompt. Nothing fixes it because the problem isn't the prompt. The problem is the architecture. Let me show you the math. A single Claude session that handles email triage, lead scoring, and invoice drafting in one conversation drags every previous message into every new turn. By the end of a normal workday, that session is sitting on 150, sometimes 180,000 tokens of accumulated context. Every single new email you throw at it gets compared against that entire bloated history. You're paying input tokens on the whole novel every time you ask one question. Latency climbs. Accuracy drops. And the worst part, the model starts contradicting itself because it's drowning in its own backlog. The fix is not a better prompt. The fix is splitting the job into specialists. Most Claude tutorials teach you the tool like it's one big chat window. One assistant, one system prompt, one running conversation. That works for personal use. It breaks the moment you try to run anything in production. What I run instead, and what I deploy for clients, is an Orchestrator plus sub-agents pattern. One coordinator agent receives the incoming work. It does not do the work itself. It looks at the task, decides which specialist should handle it, hands off only the relevant context, and merges the result back. Each specialist sub-agent has its own tiny, isolated context window, usually under 8,000 tokens, focused on exactly one job. In one of my own production systems, I run 6 sub-agents this way. An email triage agent that only knows how to classify and route messages. A lead scorer that only knows the scoring rubric and the CRM schema. An invoice drafter that only knows the billing rules and the client list. A calendar coordinator. A document summarizer. A notification dispatcher. None of them know about each other. None of them carry yesterday's history. The orchestrator is the only piece that sees the bigger picture, and even it stays lean because it delegates instead of doing. Here is what changed when I moved from one bloated session to this pattern. A PI spend dropped from around $140 a month to about $52. Email triage latency went from 14 seconds per message down to 3. Hallucinations on invoice line items basically disappeared because the invoice drafter never sees email content that could confuse it. And debugging got dramatically easier. When something goes wrong, I know exactly which specialist failed, not which sentence in a 10,000-line transcript poisoned the well. Let me walk you through how to actually build this. Step 1 is your orchestrator definition. This is a short markdown file. Mine is under 90 lines. It describes the available sub-agents, what each one is good at, and the routing rules. The orchestrator's job is to read incoming input, decide which specialist gets the work, and prepare a clean handoff payload. That payload is the key. You do not forward the whole conversation. You forward only what the specialist needs. The email body, or the lead record, or the invoice line items. Nothing else. Step 2 is your first sub-agent. Pick the noisiest, most repetitive job in your workflow. For most solopreneurs, that's email triage. Write a sub-agent definition that does one thing. Classify an incoming email into a category. Extract the key fields and return structured output. No conversation memory. No general knowledge about your business beyond what fits in a few hundred lines of instructions. Give it examples of edge cases. Give it a clear output schema. That's it. Step 3 is the second sub-agent, something that consumes the first one's output. A lead scorer is a good pairing with email triage. The orchestrator receives the triage result, sees it's a sales inquiry, and routes it to the scorer with just the extracted fields. The scorer never sees the raw email. It works on clean, structured data, which is exactly why it's fast and cheap. Step 4 is the third sub-agent and the one that proves the pattern. An invoice drafter or any task that touches money. This one needs to be conservative. Tight rules, narrow context, explicit refusal conditions when data is missing. The reason this works is that the invoice drafter has no idea email triage or lead scoring even exist. It cannot accidentally pull a phrase from a sales conversation into a billing document. The isolation is the safety mechanism. Step 5 is the handshake, how the orchestrator merges results and decides whether to dispatch a follow-up. This is where most people overcomplicate things. Keep it boring. The orchestrator gets a structured response from a specialist. It either acts on it directly, routes it to another specialist, or surfaces it to a human. Log every hop. 3 lines of structured logging per delegation will save you hours when you're debugging at month 2. Now the production gotchas. Because this is where people lose a weekend. Rate limits hit harder with sub-agents because you're making more API calls per task, not fewer. You're just paying way less per call because each call has a tiny context. Build in retry logic with exponential backoff at the orchestrator level, not inside each sub-agent. Failure handoff matters too. When a specialist fails, the orchestrator should know whether to retry, escalate to a different specialist, or flag for human review. Don't let one sub-agent silently swallow an error and pretend it succeeded. The last thing nobody warns you about. Keep your sub-agent definitions in version control. Treat them like code, because they are. Every time you tweak the email triage rules, commit it. When something starts misbehaving in production, you want to know what changed. That's the whole pattern. One orchestrator, several narrow specialists, isolated context windows, structured handoffs, boring logging. It is not glamorous. It is not what the viral tutorials show you, but it is what makes Claude survive contact with real work. If you want this exact pattern running in your business without spending 3 weekends figuring it out, that's what we build at bizflowai.io. Real orchestrator and sub-agent systems for solopreneurs and small ops teams. Hit subscribe and ring the bell so the next automation breakdown finds you. And if you have a specific workflow you want automated, book a free 30-minute discovery call at bizflowai.io, and we'll map it out together.